anybody that's watching or joining us, wondering what the heck is going on, we didn't have a webinar scheduled for this month, mainly due to Halloween being right around the corner, and then, of course, COVID and all that fun stuff. So, anyway, we decided to do kind of a panel discussion and a little Q&A session for anybody that's not familiar with who we are as individuals, as well as who we are as a club and what we're trying to accomplish, and why we started doing this whole thing about a year ago. It's actually been just over a year now. And so it's been a wild ride. We definitely got a big fat curveball with COVID that started at the beginning of the year and put a damper on a lot of our plans, but it's all good. You know, we're muscling through it, and it actually um, kind of nudged us into taking a direction that we probably wouldn't have otherwise, meaning doing the Zoom and doing a lot of this online stuff. We've always wanted to or had in mind of doing it, but actually executing it to the level we have, and then also opening up ways for us to collaborate with other clubs and also people in other regions. You know, we have people that participate in our meetings from Israel and South America and Europe, and just all kinds of places that we wouldn't have expected. And we've actually got members in other states, which, you know, when we started this whole thing, that was kind of far-fetched, but we have members in Oregon and up north in the San Francisco and the Bay Area, over on the East Coast in the Midwest. So so anyway, that's kind of where we are now. Just quick introduction, a little bit more formal about SCCPE, and that stands for Southern California Carnivorous Plant Enthusiasts. We were all members of other local clubs that, hold on one second, let me just do this real quick. All right. So we were involved with LACPS up in the LA area, and then a couple of us dabbled with the San Diego club that meets down at Balboa Park. They have an awesome annual show every summer, draws a lot of attention, always got really good reviews. And so anyway, there was a geographical gap in Orange County. And at the time, I personally knew a handful of people that said, hey, the Alhambra meetings for LACPS are a little bit far to attend. And, I figured if I personally know a handful of people that feel that way, I'm sure there are many, many others. And so we kind of started toying around with an idea to have a club that has meetings on months that LACPS doesn't. And we got blessings from the LACPS folks saying, hey, if you guys want to do your own thing, go ahead and do it. So, we put a team together about a year ago and came up with some bylaws, got ourselves incorporated, and we are actually a registered nonprofit. We are a 501c, and so we are a IRS and California nonprofit. So that's kind of unique. A lot of clubs and societies out there don't go that far, but something we really wanted to do was have a bigger impact in the overall community. So in a nutshell, that's who we are. Our meetings were scheduled to take place on odd number months, so every other month, so that people that wanted to go to the LA meetings, they can go on the even number months. And so that was the idea around our schedule, so that people interested in carnivorous plants, one, have an option that's a little bit more local geographically, but also on the months that LACPS didn't have meetings, if they wanted to, they could come check us out. And so that was the goal behind it, kind of humble beginnings, rough idea. And then we took it and ran with it, and kind of have been dealing with COVID along the way. So that being said, we do have a website for anybody that's not familiar. There's a little bit more information on the website. It's SCCPE.org, so SCCPE.org. There's some basic information on there about who we are, what membership looks like. We did want basically to have a reach and impact with anybody and everybody, regardless of skill level or experience level. with carnivorous plants to have a connection point. And so, it's always free to participate in our meetings and our general content, things like that. So if people are new, there's no cost associated with checking us out. And then, of course, there are membership tiers because along with the information about carnivorous plants or plants in general, people want to get their hands on plants. And so Southern California does not have a whole lot of retail options for buying carnivorous plants, especially some more specialized stuff. Home Depot carries very typical stuff, Lowe's or a lot of the garden centers. But if you want to start getting into more specific species, some stuff that's harder to get a hold of or harder to keep alive, there are enough hobbyists locally that can share plants, that want to share plants. And so we wanted our meetings to also be a platform where growers have a chance to sell and trade plants as well. And so anyway, the website again is SCCPE.org, skippy.org. Feel free to check that out. And then on Facebook, which is where most of the action is happening right now, every couple of days we're going to post stuff and talk about stuff on Facebook, because that's just an easy platform to reach people. So our public Facebook page, which is pretty much open to anybody interested in joining, as long as you don't have any ulterior motives. The club is Skippy, Southern California Carnivorous Plant Enthusiasts, or if you want the URL, the direct handle, it's SoCalCP. So facebook.com/SoCalCP. So check us out on Facebook. If you're watching this live, you're already there. But we're going to be later sharing this via YouTube and stuff as well. So that's about it for the club. Did I miss anything, guys?
No, I don't
Good
think
so
so.
far. Okay. Cool. Hey, yeah, if you think of something, just feel free to
maybe talk about the goals that we set from the beginning.
Yeah. So
about promoting the hobby and
right. So let's see. Let me go to the website and actually just read it to you. Let me see. So, like our website says, we're a nonprofit organization at promoting the discussion, growing, and fellowship around all things carnivorous plants. We welcome the hobby grower as well as industry professionals. So please check out our meetings and dates and events posted. So yeah, basically we kept it very general because there are existing groups out there that are very science-y. So ICPS, wonderful group, International Carnivorous Plant Society, really big brains there from all over the world. Actually has its roots in California, but if you're into the scientific, the literature, the naming of species, conservation activities, like that's a wonderful resource to get to. And actually one of our membership tiers, our highest membership tiers, gets you automatically an annual membership with them as well, because we want to support their cause. But they're a very technical group, and we want it to be very open in general and very inclusive. We want it to grow. We want to introduce people that know nothing about carnivorous plants, let them know what they are, because oftentimes you say carnivorous plant and people think flytrap, and that's about all they know, and that's fine. That's great, but there is a whole world, so many different kinds of plants from all over the world, including islands, which is amazing. So we wanted. There's nothing more that makes me happy than hearing somebody say, "Wow, I never knew that," because then you just opened up a world of possibilities to them. And so that's our goal, and our method of kind of presenting that to people is through our meetings. We do plan to have presentations or workshops at all of our meetings. So far we've, through Zoom, have been able to have guests from very cool places, large growers. We had Jeremiah Harris on, we had Carnivera on. And we've got other people coming down the pipeline, other big names, so definitely opens up opportunities for people to hear from and even engage with people that are kind of outside the circle, kind of the big names in the game, right? So, I mean, imagine having the opportunity to ask a question directly to LeBron James right now. So Anyway, that's who we are in a nutshell. I do want to quickly introduce the officers of the club. So there's a team of 4 of us that sat down about a year ago, brainstormed this whole club and this idea, put it down on paper, and then got the ball rolling. So my name is John. For those of you that don't know me, I am the president for Skippy. And then we have online Maggie, who is our PR person. So she is our correspondent secretary. She handles all of our social media, and photos and stuff like that. So big kudos to her for keeping up with all of that. And then we have Rupert Cornelius. Um, for those of you that know his real name, it's Adam, but he goes by Rupert. Most of you know him as Rupert on Facebook. And so he is our vice president, and also our secretary. So he helps keep all of our documents in order. He takes meeting minutes when we do board meetings, all of that kind of boring stuff he has been handling for us. And then Braulio, um, he is our treasurer, so he handles all of our finances and the reporting, all of that fun stuff. Again, more boring number crunching stuff that has to be done, and it's super important as a nonprofit to have all of our ducks in a row, so that we can maintain our status. So um, the 4 of us are going to spend actually the next couple minutes just kind of letting you guys know who we are individually, some of our background. So I can start. Again, my name's John. I've been keeping carnivorous plants for only about 4 years, so I'm actually a newbie. Um, I think I have probably the least amount of experience in the entire club actually of our members. But I'm not new to plants. I'm just new to carnivorous plants. My kind of first love, and something I'm still connected with, is aquarium plants, aquatic plants. And that's actually kind of where our name comes from. So SCAPE, Southern California Aquatic Plant Enthusiast, was my first love, with plants. And so anyway, I've been a part of that club for roughly 13 or 14 years, I believe. And so my experience and knowledge, through that hobby, translates quite well to carnivorous plants, because carnivorous plants are typically, or a lot of them are, marginal species that grow along waterways, marshes, things like that. So it's been a smooth transition for me. I've really enjoyed it. Other than plants, I am a collector of hobbies. So for those of you that don't know, I am active in, oh gosh, somewhere around 12 or 15 different clubs, local clubs. Many of them are plant related. So, um, I'm in a bonsai club, a bromeliad club, succulents, carnivorous plants, aquatic plants. But I'm also really into reptiles. So I'm an officer at 2 different chapters of the California Turtle and Tortoise Club, and kind of really involved in the exotic animal community, yada, yada, yada. So what I bring to the table to this club is mostly organizational skills, having been involved in really well run clubs, as well as some that weren't run too well. And so I've had a lot of experiences in that, and I wanted to kind of provide a platform where carnivorous plant lovers can get together and kind of share that with other people. So I think that's it about me. I mean, if you guys have any questions, please feel free. I should have mentioned this earlier. If you have any questions or comments, post that directly into the Facebook live feed chat. We have a couple of different people looking and keeping an eye on the chats to help us address any of those things. And then the other thing, just a quick reminder, is that the Facebook feed has a little bit of a lag in the live. So if you ask a question, it doesn't get answered for a few seconds. Just be a little bit patient with us. So anyway, without further ado, Maggie, you want to go next and tell us about yourself a little bit?
Sure. I might be a little bit like deer caught in headlights because I never know what to say about myself. But I want to say maybe I've been growing carnivorous plants for about 7 years. And the first time I saw them was at Jeff Green's table at a reptile show. And I thought, I couldn't believe that these things would eat things to survive. And I felt really like that this type of plant really related to me, that it had to figure out how to survive in an environment that wasn't conducive to living. And I feel like most of my life I've kind of coped with that kind of situation. So growing them was like a natural step to understand myself. Then I got involved. I looked all over the place for some club or somebody that could teach me about carnivorous plants. And I even went on Yelp to find out, was there a nursery here in Los Angeles area that specialized in carnivorous plants? Of course, I find nothing, but I find Cal State University Fullerton. So I go and call them. Mind you, I had like maybe about 4 different plants so far from Jeff versus the thousands that I have now. And I called them and I say, hey, does anybody there grow carnivorous plants? And the greenhouse manager there, Ed Reed, told me that there is an actual club in LA. It's the LACPS. So I went on their website, but the meetings were about 6 months behind posted. So it took a little doing, but finally I found them, and they were the start as far as giving me a place to learn about carnivorous plant, and I owe them the beginning stages of learning about carnivorous plants. Then I found SCCPS very shortly after, and then BACPS shortly after that. And the different clubs really gave me a chance to learn different aspects of growing and meet different people that were growing. In 2018, I went on to go to the ICPS conference, and when I saw Darlingtonia in Jeff Green's backyard, I thought, this is incredible. This is in California? I couldn't believe it. So as a result, I came back and I thought, I have to do something more. I love LACPS, SDCPS, but I want to do something more. And I want to help this hobby flourish in LA. So how can we do that? Where's there a gap? And so kind of on the coattails of what John was saying, we wanted to host things where people could learn about carnivorous plants. But I also thought, can't we have a way to bring plants and people together that's a little bit easier than them traveling all the way up to Sebastopol from LA and try to buy plants from California carnivores, which is about 7 or 8 hours from me. So that was when we started to think, how can we highlight retailers and small hobbyists that are growers and put them together with people who would like to learn about them. And so we started forming the shows. Currently, I grow Venus flytraps, Nepenthes, Sarracenias, Darlingtonias, Drosera, Pinguicula, kind of iffy on the Cephalotus, and not really Heliumvorus. But those are the things that I grow right now. And I'm dying to share them with anybody who wants to see them, learn about them, share new tips with me, that kind of thing. So that's a little bit about me.
Cool, cool. Who wants to go next? Braulio?
Sure. I'll go next. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to see us, even though it's through screen. I actually been growing carnivorous plants about the same time that John has. I would say about 4 or 5 years. Most of my plant growing experience has come from growing orchids. I have grown orchids for about 17 years. 14 of those 17 years, I've been a member of an orchid society here in the South Bay area. And out of those 14 years, I've been on the board for the past almost 5 years now, 4 and some months. Me, like John, coming from a very structured type of club and going to other carnivorous plant groups that were not very organized, it was not something that I was used to. And I was always interested in maybe dedicating a little more time to education or as a member of the Orchid Society, we would have speakers every month and talk about different subjects, and I wanted to have the same thing with the CP community. So So then when we all got together, it was just the perfect timing because we were all looking for the same thing, and and it was just perfect. I think I enjoy working with all three of us, four of us. Enjoy working with everyone, and we all contribute a great amount of our time, but it's so worthwhile because we see the result when everybody shows up to our very few meets that we've been able to have. It's very rewarding, and I just think that it's just going to get bigger and bigger with time. The reason why I got into carnivorous plants was kind of funny because I, like I said, I had been growing orchids for about 17 years, and this young new member joined one day, and we became friends right off the bat. And one day I was telling him, I was like, man, I wish I could do something about flies in the summer because I have 3 dogs and they poop all over the place. And it doesn't matter how much you clean up, there's always flies inside the house in the summer. And, and my house doesn't have AC. I keep my windows and my doors open, and it's impossible. So he's like, oh, you should get carnivorous plants. And like John said, immediately I thought, what are fly traps going to do? Come on. I tried buying fly traps before and I freaking killed them, by following the directions on the on the freaking container. So then he goes, no, no, man, you gotta come to my house. So this was Ruben, for those who know Ruben. So I went over to his house, and like Maggie, I was struck to see this beautiful Sarracenia pictures that I have never seen in my life, and the colors. And I was like, "What is this, man? Where do these grow?" And he was like, "They grow right here in the U.S." I'm like, "No way!" So from there, I started, and needless to say, I if you see one fly or two inside my house is rare now. They don't make it inside. They're perfect traps, and they're full of food every summer and enough to keep going for the next year. But yeah, that's me. I enjoy being part of groups and seeing this type of societies come to fruition is amazing. And of course, without the support of the members, this will be impossible. One thing that I saw about the CP community is that it's full of the best resource that any club can desire, which is members, young members, people that want to learn. And that is basically the hardest thing on an orchid society because a lot of the orchid members are elder people, and and the young kids are not interested in orchids. Um, so I found this very amusing to see how so many young people interested in carnivorous plants. And I said, this is the best resource that a club can have, membership. Without membership, there is no clubs. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity to provide that for those that are looking for something different. And and I think I'll be quiet now. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Braulio. Yeah, actually, on that note, I think it was the Sacramento Bromeliad Society a few years ago changed the entire club structure to add carnivorous plants into that club because they noticed that all the young people were interested in carnivorous plants. So they saved themselves by adding carnivorous plants to the repertoire of plants. So anyway, yeah, it's a very, very solid point. And I totally agree. A lot of the clubs I belong to, they're aging out, whether it's the Bird Club or the Bromeliad Society or even Bonsai. So yeah, I think this is kind of hip and trendy and cool. And of course, this time of year with Halloween, there's a lot of decorations out there. Target, Michaels, and stuff having really cool CP stuff. So anyway, Adam, you ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So I started growing carnivorous plants in 2015. I ordered a Venus flytrap off of Amazon, and it was supposed to come with enough of the media and a pot to pot it. And when it showed up, it was actually 5 or 6 rhizomes and just like a cup of LFS, and it just wasn't enough. And so I'm scrambling on, like, trying to find information online, trying to find the right stuff at brick and mortar stores here. And it took like a day and a half of running around and, put so much energy into making sure those plants were cared for properly. And in doing that, I discovered that there's like 26,000 different kinds of carnivorous plants, and I was just blown away. And before that, my plant experience was I had killed a cactus and a bonsai tree. So very, very little plant experience, no experience in clubs or anything like that. And I just very quickly became obsessed. I think by the end of 2015, I was already growing epiphytic utricularia, Nepenthes, heliumphora, and cephalotus, against the better recommendations of everyone that I talked to about it. They're like, no, you need to grow this for 5 years before you can grow this, and then you have to grow this. And I don't know, I guess I've always had a problem with absolutes. Like when someone says you have to do it this way, that almost makes me go the opposite route. So, and I had found most of the information on flytrapcare.com, and somewhere along the line, I found out about LACPS, I think on flytrapcare.com. And at that time, I was actually working in Northern California, and I had kind of an automated setup for my plants back home here in Southern California, and then started a collection up there as well. So I had the bug pretty bad. When I got done with that project and came back, I went to my first LACPS meeting, and Maggie and Braulio were the only ones that talked to me and welcomed me in. And I think very shortly after that, the opportunity at one of the large reptile events that John had coordinated for LACPS to show up, we did like a community outreach. And that was the first time I got to talk to anybody about carnivorous plants in a public setting. And it was just really cool to see like the response of everybody and how interested everybody was. And so after that, I was kind of hooked. And everyone else has already kind of covered the evolution of how we came from a couple people in LACPS to Skippy. But so that's pretty much my story of how I got into plants and how I got here.
Very cool. Very cool. So actually, that's a good segue to mention that our next meeting is scheduled for November 7th, Saturday. That's at 1 to 3 p.m. And so the event page is up on our Facebook page, and Rupert will be sharing with us about Nepenthes basils. So you get a little plant that starts kind of in the middle of the plant or at the bottom of the plant sometimes, and what that is, what to do with it, kind of his experiences on dealing with the basil shoots. And so if you're interested in that, please check out the event page over at Facebook events on our Skippy page. So again, that's November 7th. And then I want to mention real quick that some of the other faces that you were seeing participating in the Zoom, those are some of our members. And so we do have some perks if you join our club. We have discounts at a couple different retailers, and that list is definitely going to be growing. But also when we have member benefits when we do little meetings and things like this. So they have a direct connection to us through the Zoom right now. We're also going to have some member-only events going forward. We've got a box swap activity right now in conjunction with the Bay Area Carnivorous Plant Society up north. They sent down at the beginning of this year a big old box of plants. And so those were shared amongst our members. We still have more. So if you're a member and you haven't grabbed any plants, they are still available. And what we're going to do is put together our own box of plants as a donation and send that back up to BACPS sometime next year. They're not certain right now what their meeting dates are going to be, still waiting out COVID, but we're going to coordinate that, send them a little box of plants up north to reciprocate the gesture. So that's something fun again that our members are able to do. And so we're also planning. So I don't think most of you have heard yet, but we're hoping and we're planning to do some sort of holiday party at the end of the year for our members. So stay tuned for that information. We're kind of looking forward to maybe or hopefully include or invite some of the other local clubs and see if we can do something together while being mindful of COVID. So the details are still to be determined, but we're trying to do some fun stuff like that. So anyway, that's about all we had for kind of talking about the club and ourselves. We wanted to make sure that you guys knew who we were behind the scenes, the people that spend countless numbers of hours thinking about the club and thinking about what we're going to do and how to do things in different meetings and locations. So I do want to mention though, we were before COVID meeting at actually my wife's work in Buena Park, but that meeting location is no longer going to be available. So starting next year, whenever we can go back to having normal in-person meetings, we're going to need to find a home to have our meetings. So we're tossing around some ideas. If anybody out there knows of a place somewhere in the North Orange County area, or anywhere in Orange County, maybe even South LA County, where we could have a meeting for a few hours every other month, please reach out to us and let us know. We're pretty open to suggestions. We would ideally like it to be indoors, climate controlled, because we're all sissies like that. But we had a meeting actually last month at a park, and that actually turned out pretty well. So for the time being, if that's what we need to do, and if COVID forces us to be outside anyway for a little while longer, that location over at William Pete Park is a candidate maybe for the immediate future, assuming the weather cooperates. So we don't want to be outside when it's raining, but we're in California, so that's a small concern. So just wanted to throw that out there. If anybody's got ideas, I am used to reaching out to various venues for all my other clubs, and I have. I've reached out to different botanical gardens. I've reached out to different schools and churches, but right now, nobody is booking anybody for anything until further notice because of COVID. So nobody's even willing to talk about a calendar with me. So unfortunately, those typical avenues are all dried up right now. And that's why we're reaching out to individual folks. If you have a place of business or something that you know of that we could even rent, we're very, very much open to suggestions at this point. So wanted to put that out there. We are looking for a home starting next year. So that's kind of all I had for announcements, I think. Braulio, Maggie, Adam, did I miss anything? Kind of general club information?
I don't think so.
No,
Okay, cool. We're doing good so far. So the other kind of thing we wanted to do today was just talk about some stuff, talk about some carnivorous plant stuff, leave it open for Q&A. If anybody has any specific questions or comments, again, you can put that on the live Facebook feed, or if you're joining us directly in the Zoom, if you're a member, you can do it in the Zoom chat box. But otherwise, the first thing on my list was, plants are starting to change as we get into fall. Depending on where you're at, certain plants are starting to show signs of dormancy. So I know Sandy's joining us, and she posted a picture of her dreamsicle plants that all went to sleep. And so she gave them a fresh haircut. And then Jeff is showing us right now on his camera in Zoom the huge batch of Sarracenia he's got right behind him over his shoulder. So for those of you that don't know, I guess I'll mention real quick. Jeff has been a huge supporter of us since day zero. So even before we got anything going, as soon as Jeff caught wind that we were trying to do this, he jumped all over it and has supported us in tremendous ways right from the beginning. He invited us to share a booth with him at the Reptile Super Show in Anaheim in January to kind of get the word out there. And he's donated tons and tons of plants, and he's actually driven down from Oregon to Southern California to provide some of his awesome plants to our local community a couple times already now. So just want to give a quick shout out to Jeff, who's joining us on the Zoom. Um, so anyway, I don't know if I think Maggie, do you have any plants that actually go dormant, or are you keeping mostly tropical stuff that stay pretty much awake year round?
Oh,
Uh,
no.
John, before we move
Oh.
to Maggie,
Yeah.
Don has a question. He said, if you get a location, are you still going to broadcast your meetings?
Oh,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
attend in person.
Yeah, no, that's a
See,
great question. Yeah, so we do plan to do that as much as possible anyway. We'll set up a camera during the meeting, and live feed, live stream it, and then also as I have time, I've been stitching together videos to post on YouTube of our presentations and stuff. So we'll continue to do that as much as we can. And actually, that's a good point. We're also looking for volunteers to add to our team. So committee members, volunteers, particularly Maggie is looking for help with our social media. So, we're definitely looking for help. Anybody that's got some graphic experience or anything, we're looking to add to the team for Facebook and for Instagram. If anybody's got some video editing experience and wants to help us get things uploaded to YouTube a little bit faster, all of the officers have full-time jobs, and most of us have pets. Actually, I think we all have dogs. I have a zoo at my house, but anyway, we all have things that we do outside of carnivorous plants. So we are definitely looking to recruit. So over the next few months, we're going to continue kind of soliciting that kind of help. And so yeah, that's a roundabout way to say that yes, we do fully plan to stream it. Some of the content's going to be member only. So we have a separate Facebook group just for our paid members. And there's stuff that gets posted on there that's not on the public Facebook page. So another incentive to think about possibly joining the club. So yes.
And the other incentive of being a member that goes along with putting retailers together with members who would like to get plants is that members get 10% off their first order with California Carnivores and 10% off at Pet Flytrap for their entire order of regular price items. So that's another benefit that happens with our memberships.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're going to spend a decent amount of money anyway, that discount could just pay for your membership, right? And
Exactly.
yeah, you know what? Actually, I'm going to circle back again. We keep talking about membership and raising money and things like that. One of the things that long-term goals that we want to do is definitely be involved in conservation efforts. So actually just last week, BACPS had NASC on giving a presentation. That's the North American Sarracenia Conservancy. And so most of those folks are on the East Coast, but they're doing really cool stuff, important stuff with our native carnivorous plants over there on the East Coast. So things like that we want to support. We want to have an impact, in the hobby realm, but also in a conservation effort. So just wanted to throw that out there. We're not, nobody gets paid. I mean, maybe somebody does, and I'm not the one that getting paid, but we're all just volunteering our time to put this together for everybody, create a community. And the funds that we raise, that's the direction we're going. So we want to have shows, we want to have fun stuff, but at the end of the day, it's about the plants. We wouldn't have the hobby without the plants. So we want to grow and support horticulture and hobbyists, but also naturalists and conservationists out there doing work out in the field that we're too chicken to do. I'm too chicken to do. I'm not going to go and climb mountains in Venezuela. Maybe Adam might, but not
Take a
for
helicopter.
me. Yeah. So sorry, it's a little bit disorganized, but let's circle back. Maggie, I was asking you if you have plants that go dormant, if there's anything you're doing specifically. I know you have a ton of fly traps, and I'm sure you're probably going to start getting ready to do some care with those. You want to talk a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, the outdoor stuff has started to show signs of going to sleep. And the fly traps in October, I typically find myself standing by with a pair of pruning scissors going, okay, when do I need to, prune off the dead leaves? And I'm watching all month to see the signs. The long leaves are starting to die down, and any new leaves coming up would be the short ones. That's basically what I'm seeing right now on my fly trap table. So I'm waiting for things to get completely black so that any nutrients that might be still held in the leaves can be delivered back to the plant before I snip it off. I typically look at my fly traps like about 4 times a day. And I have to, at this point, I'm not having to water things as much anymore because the day is shortening. And so the water table doesn't need to be as high. Around this time, I start adjusting the amount of water I'm giving to the fly traps. So the height of the water, so to speak, in the middle of summer when it was like over 90 degrees may have been 2 inches, maybe 1.5 inches. And my pots are really, really tall for anybody who's seen them. Even the small fly traps are in anything shorter than 5.5 inches. Everything's 5.5 inches, 7 inches, 9 inches, and 12 inches tall. And I still keep a fairly, I would say, shorter than most people water table. And then around this time, I start to lower the height of the water. There might be an inch, maybe in November, I might go down to 1/2 inch to even an 1/8 of an inch, and then maybe not even any water in there. I just make sure that the soil is wet. And that's just mainly to prevent the rot from happening as the day shortens. So those are some of the things I'm looking at in October to do. I'm also going over to the side where I keep the Sarracenias, the pings, and the Droseras, making sure that they like to stay a little bit, the Sarracenias and the Droseras like to stay a little bit wetter. So I still keep the water, and they're more thirsty. So I still keep the water table there a little bit higher than the fly traps. Sarracenias right now could use some, not all of them, but some of them could use a little bit of pruning and weeding is basically what I'm seeing. I get those anybody get those long grassy things? What are they called? They drive me crazy.
Weeds. They're called weeds.
Yeah,
Yank them out.
You can't just yank them out. You have to hold on to the bulb part. I think Braulio was talking about these. He holds on to the bulb and he has to like yank it out with a tweezer. Oh, it drives me bananas. Then the weeds, the roots go down underneath and go out to the other pots. It's like in everything. So I look at that and I go, oh, I really should weed that, because when you don't take off the dead stuff or a lot of the weeds, there can be things that kind of hang around that you don't want to hang around because they have places to hide. Not so much the mealy bugs at this point in time, but there could be other things that hang around and hide. So like hygiene becomes more of an issue with the Sarracenias. And I find that the load of work with Sarracenia comes from just keeping them clean of things. They don't really need repotting every year like fly traps. I find fly traps I have to repot every single year, maybe 6 to 9 months, because they grow so fast and they really like that pristine media base to put their roots into. They don't really do well if you don't repot them every year, but Sarracenias, you can kind of leave them in the same pots for a few years, but they need a lot of care with regards to weeding and making sure pests are confined or controlled. Or you never get rid of mealia bugs. If you have Sarracenia, it seems like you have mealia bugs, but you can try to control them by keeping things hygienic. That's pretty much what I'm seeing as far as what's going dormant. Is that what you were hoping to hear?
Yeah. Some of those kind of chores is what I call it, surrounding our plants.
My indoor plants are not going dormant yet. In fact, the Pediolaris from the recent heat wave that I had, boy, they just started getting, some of them got really big. But I imagine that as we don't have the high constant temperatures, like that room that everything's in isn't going to be as hot consistently. So on the ends of the day, you're going to see maybe cooler temperatures. They're going to slow down their growth as well too, I would say, in the next month or so.
When do you typically do I know like once a year you do a big old wash of all your water tables and trays. When do you normally do that?
Oh my gosh, that chore is so big, it's coming, and I'm like shuddering.
I know you hire people to help you because you have so much.
Yeah, I have to. It's so much work because what has to happen is every single pot has to be removed from the water trays. And then we have to remove any liners that have been, you know, basically breaking down in the sun. And they do break down in the sun. You have to replace them. So that's a really huge job because we have things that are screwed onto the liners so that they stay down on the water table. So I have to have someone come in that's handy to remove all the screws and take off all the pieces of metal that's holding down the liners, replace the liners, and fix any pieces of wood that maybe got water damage in it. And there's some water damage. And so we got to fix that and then put the new liners down. Wash out all the reverse osmosis reservoirs and test all the water. Maybe change some filters, and then get the reverse osmosis barrels ready for collecting rain. Because hopefully you can collect as much rain as possible and not rely on the reverse osmosis system too much, you know, maybe because there's a lot of filter changes if you have to only rely on reverse osmosis water. People don't realize when you run RO, you have to change the filters. You have to test it every month to make sure the water didn't go bad. I'm sure you could speak to that, right, John? Didn't you do RO water?
I've been through many different RO units, and actually the system I'm using now has a easy change filter cartridge. So it's just a twist. So instead of using a tool and twisting it off a whole bunch of times, it's just a quarter turn and it pops right off. It's a quick change system. So it costs a little bit more, but for me, my problem was having to change out the cartridges and the medium because I do RODI. And so it's typically 5 or 7 stages is what I do. And the annoying factor of having to do that filter maintenance always made me fall behind. And so I just, even if I got to spend an extra $10 a year to go with the different system, but it's super convenient. Yeah. So the system I have now, to change all of the filter cartridges would take me less than 3 minutes is how easy it is.
You got to post that system.
I will. And actually I've been trying to get one donated to our club all year long, but COVID has been getting in the way. But I saw it on sale a couple weeks ago on Amazon for $90. It's an RODI system, and I think it's 75 gallons per hour or per day. So it's a pretty good size. I mean, for me and for all the uses I have for it, because I water all of my indoor plants, so all my house plants, my orchids, as well as all of the CPs with that RO water, and it's enough for me because it'll fill a 1 gallon jug in a few minutes. So I that's how I do my watering is I fill 1 gallon jugs and then I distribute the water. But before when I had my reef aquarium, my saltwater aquarium, I had a 50 gallon barrel that was always full of RO water, and it was on an auto top off system, so it just automatically made more water whenever the water level would drop down a little bit. So yeah, that the changing the filters is super important and something that I've always been terrible at. And so I'm using a system or a brand right now that's a little bit more expensive, but it that discouragement is non-existent. So yeah, I can share what that exact product is online. But Adam, is there anything that goes dormant over at your place? I know you keep a lot of highland species and heliumphoras and stuff like that. Is anything going dormant?
Yeah, no, I've got a little bit of I got a couple of Sarracenia and fly traps growing outside, but they got pretty decimated by the heat wave. So they're going to be limping back to health probably in spring. And I'm just going to have to figure something else out. It's just, I know we're all Southern California here, but there's something about this specific spot where I'm at where we get temps over 110 for like 6 to 8 weeks, and they just can't handle it. And I think it's Maggie mentioned it's not necessarily the daytime highs, it's the not getting any nighttime lows. And when I started looking at the the highs and lows, I was noticing, yeah, absolutely, like it's still 85, 88, 90 degrees at 1 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, that just gonna have to come up with something else for outside plants. But yeah, just a handful. Almost everything else I grow inside under lights, and it's still predominantly epiphytic utricularia, Nepenthes, heliumphora, a couple cephalotus. I do have like a handful of like Drosera and Pingicula and stuff like that, but nothing, maybe one or two examples where I have I think I have 70 Nepenthes and 55 Heliumphora. So yeah, mostly tropical stuff.
Hey, there was a question in the chat about Drosera tracei. Do any of you guys have any experience with that specific dro? Oh, Sandy's got her hand up. You know what? Sandy, let me unmute you.
Sandy.
Yeah. There you go.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I grow tracei. It's the same as my dreamsicle. So basically it goes to sleep right about now, starting to get a little sad looking. And I keep it basically the same as the Sarracenia. Keep it pretty wet-ish over winter. Sometimes the trays get flooded with rain and I just leave it and they're fine. And they start waking up about February, end of February, something like that. About the same as Sarracenia, really. I keep them the same.
Do you give them a haircut like your dreamsicles?
Yes. I cut everything down.
All your SARs too?
Yep, everything. When they start to look sad, I chop them down.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Braulio, what about you? What's going on over at your house? You doing anything? Oh,
Bro?
he's muted. Hold on a sec.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot to make him a co-host when he came back.
All right. So pretty much I just finished going through my Sarracenias and debugging them. They were full of bugs. I've been neglecting them. I've been so busy with my daughter moving to San Diego and a bunch of stuff around the house. So I went through all of them and I'm cutting back all the old pictures, and soon enough, maybe about December, I'll start cutting them all back completely and waiting for spring. That's what I do, basically. I do have a couple of Droseras and some Pinguiculas, and I got some stuff that I'm going to bring in, some lowland and the Nepenthes that I have in my greenhouse, along with my orchids that I'll be bringing inside the house with the help of Adam. I've been trying to figure out some lighting, and I got a heating pad to keep them a little warm, because again, my house has no AC and has no, well, it's got a gas heater, but it doesn't do anything.
What are you doing for heating pads? Are you using like the seed mats, or are you using aquarium heaters? What are you doing?
I got a pad that it's goes underneath the tank, and I'm thinking about putting some rocks and maybe a little bit of water to radiate the heat. I don't know. This is my first time figuring this out, so I don't know. Any help, any advice will be greatly appreciated.
Hey, bro.
Yes.
Nothing's going to directly touch that water, is it?
No.
Oh, okay, because the rocks that you choose, depending on what kind of rocks it is, you could have minerals come out of the rock into the water.
Oh, okay.
So,
Got it.
so if you want the heat or people put, it's the same idea as when people put what do you call it, water chiller, to cool the water. Whatever you put in it, you just have to see how it changes the water quality to make sure.
Would it be better not to put any rocks instead and just put the plants there?
Well, what are the rocks for?
I don't know. It's just something that I thought they would be a good idea. So the plants won't be sitting right on the heating pad.
Oh, okay. So something to lift the pot away.
Yes.
Water. Just use egg crate.
Oh, excellent. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Put egg crate on top. Put the plants on top of the egg crate. Especially if they're
excellent idea.
Right? You need that airflow, and then that lifts the pots out of the water and allows whatever you have underneath. It gives it a false bottom, basically.
Right. Excellent. All right. I'll try that. Perfect.
Yeah, and the reason I kind of asked about your heating too is because like some of the reptile heating mats get way too hot. You know, so like the seedling tray mats are intended for that purpose, so they don't get as hot. Um, you know, so and I think Adam's been looking into different heating and cooling systems. Are you still tinkering with those things?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I got a Braulio. I've got actually one of those Jumpstart seedling heat mats that I bought brand new. I was gonna try and do I forget what the hell I was gonna do with it, but anyways, it's still sitting in the box. So yeah,
Cool.
we'll talk
Wait,
later.
so,
We'll figure something out on that.
but what is it?
Okay.
Sorry, what is this for though? Braulio, what is it? What kind of plants are you hoping to have?
Lowlanders, Nepenthes.
But you're gonna have lights over the whole thing, right?
Yes. Yes.
I doubt that you're gonna actually have to add the heater.
You think so?
Yeah, because it depends on what you hold the plants in. Is it gonna be an enclosure or
It's gonna be a tank, a fish tank.
oh yeah, the light on top of that fish tank is gonna make the interior of the fish tank hot.
Okay.
De-
Here's another thing, because I was thinking about putting the petiolatis together with that, and remember
Okay.
I have to keep
So yeah,
over
so
70.
Polaris, you will need the seedling heat mat for
Okay.
especially if you don't have, depending on how well your house is insulated. My house, no,
Not
like,
very well.
oh yeah. So if your house is,
1950s.
yeah, if it's older like mine is, you're likely to need a seedling heat mat for just the pediolaris, and you can
Yes.
combine the seedling heat mat underneath the tank that you specifically have the pediolaris in. The
Yes.
um can take a little less ventilation than the Nepenthes. So you probably don't want them right next to each other anyways. You might have like a couple of different tanks, one for the Nepenthes, and the Nepenthes will have a little bit more air movement, whereas the pediolaris can have a little less ventilation and
Okay.
a little more heat. I find my lowlanders fare really well in the bedroom that they're in. They're even on open shelves, believe it or not.
Okay.
And they don't, as long as they don't drop below, I would say 65 to 68 for prolonged periods of time. I'm talking like more than 3 to 4 days. They're pretty much okay. But the pediolaris, you don't want them to get down that low really ever. You kind of
Right.
really need that seedling heat mat, and you kind of want to close it so that you maintain that warmth at all times. So above 70 at all times, because if they drop below that 68, 64, 5 for a prolonged period of time, they start to go to sleep.
Right.
Once they're asleep, it's really hard
It's
to wake them
gone.
up. It's like they're done for most people.
Hey, can you tell us a little bit more about how you keep your pediolaris, Maggie? Because the three that I got from you are they're still going, and I want to keep them going. So, how do you
So,
care?
so here in Southern California, I don't know so much about everywhere else, but here in Southern California, we have the luxury of not really experiencing any huge chills, really. So most of the year, they're really great in, it's just a 10 by 20 tray that I have with one of those grow dome things, $7 at the hydroponic store, like nothing. And then I just put all the pots in there and fill it up like really tall with water. Maybe I shorten the water table during the winter, but not really, because there's in the winter, they're even not dormant for me. So then I just put a seedling heat mat. And like you said, I don't use the reptile heat mats because they can get a little bit too hot. Just a seedling heat mat, and the light on top keeps the interior temperature above 68 to 70 at all times.
And
They can,
you only water from the tray, right? You don't top water at all.
yeah, because this is Drosera. You kind of don't want to wash away the sticky stuff. So I just put the water in the tray. The media I use is basically peat and sand instead of perlite. They seem to enjoy the sand more, but I don't know if that's the case for everybody else. It's just me. It's just something that I noticed here. So I mean, they're so easy. I don't even have what do you call it? It's not compact fluorescent. It's not T5s or 8s or anything like that. I just use LED lights over them. You know, the cheap 12 by 12 YesCom panels from Amazon that are like 25 bucks each. There's just one panel over each of the 10 by 20 trays. That's all. And I just make sure that they're as close to the light as I can get it without causing the leaves to get too, the actual leaf part, not the trap part, to get too red. That's all. There's nothing to it. The main thing you don't want it to happen with the Pediolaris is you don't want it to go to sleep, because then you need to call Bobby Lynch and say, how do I handle this? Because I don't know how to get them to wake up once they're asleep. I've been lucky. It's just been luck. When they wake up for me, it's just I don't know what I did to make it to wake up.
Is it too early for us to mention that possibly February we'll have a webinar with the Pediolaris expert?
I really hope that he will join us. We don't have an exact confirmation yet, but we are looking to put in that Pediolaris talk, and hopefully the Pediolaris expert will be joining us as our speaker.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
To touch back on what Braulio was talking about earlier, I think one of the reasons he was thinking about using the heating pad is because he was going to go with some of the Carson Technology LEDs, and those do not put off as much heat as other lights. So
That's correct.
They're not going to heat up a lowland setup as well as like fluorescence or some of the other LEDs would.
That's actually better, because
yeah.
I find it more difficult to cool something than to heat something, right?
Yeah.
Because it do is kind of close it up a little more for the heat to stay trapped inside. But once it's hot, it's like really difficult and takes a lot of energy to cool something, right? So
Right.
Yeah, it's like a haircut. You can always take a little more off, but you can't put any back on.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, speaking of Carson Tech, do you have any near future plans to make some of those lights available for us?
Yeah, I've been trying to talk to them and get them to do like a donation or something like that. And then when I swapped over my new phone, I lost some of my contacts, and that's one of the ones I lost. So I gotta dig back through old emails and get that guy's number again. But yeah, definitely would like to put maybe a pair of the 20 watt 2-foot clone lights in a raffle or something like that. I really like to get the word out with these lights, but it's going to take a few different carnivorous plant growers to use them and see the results. Because I mean, obviously, I'm going to say they work amazing because I'm trying to sell them, but you know, I was in love with the lights before I got the distributorship. So that's actually why I got the distributorship, is because I was experiencing what I felt were phenomenal results and trying to share them with people. And then I was hearing back from people like, where did you get them? I couldn't find them anywhere. And then I was like, you know what? I need to get a hold of these so I can resell them to these people that can't find them. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And I'm still working on the Facebook page and the website for them. It's just, I got too many irons in the fire, so I'm not making much progress on any of them.
Hey, do you want to do a shout out for your Highland group, your Facebook group?
What's that?
Your Highland group on Facebook? You want to do a quick
what
plug
about
on
it?
how people can find it?
Oh, it's just what is that place called now? Highland Grow Chambers, Orchidariums, Vivariums, and other controlled environments. So yeah, I was looking for the longest name on record, and I think
I think you got it, buddy.
There's a lot of people over there now.
For me, the whole point of that is not necessarily carnivorous plants, but modifying environments. So even if you grow like dart frogs, or if you keep dart frogs or reptiles, just anything where you're trying to alter the environment, because I think we can all learn a lot from each other. Like maybe orchid growers, people who grow like the Dracula orchids or some of the pleurothalids that are really similar to ultra highland plants, but we might not ever make that connection and discuss growing techniques because we're in different groups, even though we have the same goal. So that was kind of my goal with that, was to just bring everybody together as far as like, how do you cool your grow space? How do you heat up your grow space? How do you automate your grow space? So yeah, that one's come a long way. I think I'm up to like 700 and something members, and I started it, I want to say around this time last year. So it took quite some time to get up to 250, but in the last like 6 months, we've gone from 250 to 700, which has been pretty insane.
Yeah,
Cool.
and just to keep myself honest and accountable, I'm going to put it out there right now. I've had a couple different terrarium, vivarium projects in mind for like 2 years now that have been lagging, but this winter I'm going to make a really big effort to get them up and going. And so I really appreciate that group, because I've noticed there are a lot of smart people on there that have been doing this, like you said, with a variety of plants, and that's kind of my goal. I have one terrarium that's 6 feet long that I want to do some kind of carnivorous plant and bromeliad display. So anyway, I've got my work cut out for me, and I kind of mentioned this. I think I mentioned it to Sandy a few weeks ago, but for some reason I've got the repotting itch this year, and like I'm really looking forward to this repotting season. Maybe it's because I spent a ton of money on pots this last in 2020. I don't know why, but I've accumulated quite a number of pots, and so I'm eager to put some plants in them. And so like maybe that's part of the bonsai part of me, really appreciating different ceramics and stuff. So at any rate, it is past 2 o'clock. So our hour went by really quickly. So just wanted to kind of recap and just let everybody know that we did this so that you guys can get an idea of what we're trying to do as a club and who we are as human beings and individuals. So anyway, we're gonna call it a day for now. I think we're gonna do another kind of just off the cuff informal meeting like this again in the middle of next year, just to kind of do a mid-year recap, let you guys know what's going on, because we do have some big plans for this summer if COVID wants to cooperate. So we got a lot of fun things coming up. I want to really thank the members that joined us on the Zoom today. Thank you everybody that's watching through Facebook Live. We're gonna leave this video up for a little while until I get the edited version on YouTube, and then I will share that instead in the near future. So again, thanks everybody for joining, and we will catch you on the next one. Thanks everybody.
Bye, everyone.